Hello, and Cade Mila Fáilte to the first ever Late Late Show with me, Irish Tommy. So it's obviously my first time doing the show, and hopefully we'll be doing this now every Friday night around this time. And I'm looking forward to it. Always enjoy listening to you guys, hearing your opinions, and as always with West Ham, there's always going to be plenty to talk about. So I see some of you are already getting into the meat of it here. Jim, but we'll get into that. Don't worry. So, going to be a lot of opinions floating around tonight, my own included. Evening, Joan. How are you? Good to see you. Welcome. Thanks for joining me in my first show. Good to have you. So, yeah, we've got a lot of things to talk about. So, first of all, I think we're going to talk about the Silkeborg game. We got the win, which is the most important thing. But as you can see on my moniker, on my ticker, we made very hard work of that game. Much harder work than it needed to be. This really should have been a much easier game. Silkeborg, I mean, they're not a great side. I don't think they're going to make any great inroads in the competition. Granted, they're at home, and they're playing against a Premier League team, so they're always going to be up for it. So there's always going to be an element of kind of giant killing, old FA Cup style. League One team playing a top flight team, they're always up for it, and they probably play maybe a bit better than they normally do in their domestic league. But nonetheless, Silkeborg are a limited team. And we made much harder work of it than we needed to. Really, I mean, we were on the edge of our seats. We were a bit nervy towards the end, kind of hanging on in the end, really. And given the depth of talent that we have, the squad that we have, players that we had even on the bench that we could call on, it wasn't great, really, the optics of it. I was actually really disappointed with the performance. Even though the result, look, ultimately, a win is a win, and it's the most important thing to pick up the 3 points. But that wasn't good. And I mean, we even started really poorly, which has been something we've done all season, and has been a problem for us. These slow starts, we don't seem to really be at it right from the kickoff, which has been a real problem for us. And it's something I think Moyes really needs to work on, because it can't go on, because we can't keep getting ourselves in a hole and expecting that we're going to be able to dig ourselves out of it. So, it wasn't ideal, and I think it kind of just adds to the debate about David Moyes. There's some rumblings now, and we'll get to that later on in the show. I'm going to be talking about that later, and we'll get into that. But at the moment, I just want to stick to the Silkeborg game alone. We should have cruised through that game, realistically. And we were. I mean, despite the poor start, I thought in the first half, we eventually kind of got to grips with the game. We showed ourselves to be the better team with the better players. Even though I didn't think we were playing great, we still looked like we just had too much quality for them. And at halftime, you're thinking, yeah, this should be comfortable. We should come out second half, score a couple more goals, go through without any problems. And unfortunately, that hasn't happened. And that's the disappointing thing. We're in a great position at half time, and we really shouldn't have allowed ourselves to get into that situation. It was very poor. But I mean, you have to say, Scamacca's goal. I have to mention that immediately. That's unbelievable finish. I mean, that's kind of the thing we've been missing. Antonio doesn't hit that. He just doesn't. He tries to probably barge his way into the box, get closer to goal. He wants to really see the whites of the keeper's eyes before he thinks about shooting. And I thought it was just very refreshing, because we haven't seen that at West Ham in a long, long time. To have a player like Scamacca, who's willing to just take one touch 20 yards out and put his laces through the ball. It was a brilliant strike, and I thought it was a really well worked goal as well. And it was the great thing for me was that Scamacca did not play well against FCSB. He missed some chances that were quite shockers, really. A free header that he put well wide of the post, and another shot that was well off target. Didn't trouble the keeper at all from close range, and I think he was probably still feeling the effects of whatever his illness was. But he had a poor night by his standards, and you just worried, was it going to knock his confidence a little bit? Was it going to still be in his head coming into the Silkeborg game? But that strike put all of that to rest. I mean, he hit that with the confidence of a striker who's just gotten a hat-trick in the previous game. So that was great to see, that he really believes in himself as a striker and his ability to score goals. And it's an interesting point, Jim, that he should have played the 90. I would have liked to have seen that. I don't know what Moyes' plans are for Scamacca on Sunday. Perhaps Moyes was thinking, okay, I'm going to play Scamacca Sunday, so I'll just get him off a little earlier. But I think Scamacca, at his age, with his confidence so high, he's very fit, obviously fully recovered from his illness. I think he could have played 90 last night and 90 again on Sunday. I don't think it would have been a problem for him. I'm not sure really why Moyes took him off. It seemed a strange substitution, to be honest. But I think all the substitutions were a little strange, if I'm completely honest. I didn't understand what Moyes was trying to do with those substitutions. We were kind of struggling a bit in midfield as it was. Silkeborg had lots of the ball. They were coming through the middle. I think the only thing a lot of the time between their midfield and Areola was Declan Rice. He was putting out a lot of fires. And then to take him off and put on Souček, who just isn't going to be able to do that. And a player who, frankly, just gives the ball away too often. I think that substitution really hurt us. And I think that's one of the reasons we ended up really just hanging on grimly at the end. So that substitution was bizarre. Again, taking off Scamacca, I'm not sure exactly what Moyes was trying to achieve there. He was the one player up there who was a focal point for us and had some physicality. And I thought he was doing a really good job up there. And he was staying up there. He was always an outlet, always looking, showing for the ball. And then when we took him off, that was gone. I mean, you're not going to get that from Jared Bowen, So I thought that was a mistake as well. And plus, Jared Bowen's form has not been good. And we saw it, unfortunately, again for their second goal. I mean, what Jared was doing, I have absolutely no idea. Hanging onto the ball for far too long, under pressure, with three players around him, inevitably loses it. And then, unfortunately, Lanzini tried to clean out their player as he broke out and just got vaulted, basically. The player saw it coming, jumped over it. Lanzini, I think, tried to do the right thing and take one for the team and take his yellow card, but he just missed the tackle. Then he got back up, tried to get back in, and just couldn't catch it. I don't know what he was trying to do just outside the box. I think he tried to take him down again, and he stubbed his toe in the ground and tripped himself up. But, again, with no Declan Rice there, I mean, he had just a free run, into our penalty area. And unfortunately parried right into an opponent's path by Areola. And Areola is something as well was a little worrying for me last night. I didn't think Areola was great, to be honest. He looked for some reason to be a bit shaky, and I don't know why. Maybe it was just something that was running through the team and a little bit of nervousness. But Areola was a little bit flappy and absolutely got away with one for their goal that was chalked off from the corner. Now, granted, it wasn't a corner. Just wasn't a corner whatsoever. So they got a decision from the linesman on that one. But there was absolutely nothing wrong with their goal. I mean, I kept looking at the replays. I thought, the Areola going down was so comical that I actually thought it must have been for something else. So in the replays, I'm looking at all the other players and looking for contact between them and saying maybe I missed a shove somewhere else that the ref spotted. But I've watched it a number of times. I don't see any foul in there from anyone. So the ref has dug us out there big time. And a referee, frankly, who was very, very kind to us on the night, I thought, overall, especially in the first half. I mean, his decision making, I thought, was shocking. And even the linesman flagged Cornet for offside twice when he was onside. I mean, I think you can see why these officials have been given Conference League duty. They are not good whatsoever. And we were lucky that the referee kind of gave us some decisions, especially on the disallowed goal. So an interesting one for me. I want to hear your thoughts actually in the live chat on the penalty. Now, there's a lot of talk that this is a very soft penalty. And I understand why people might think it was soft. But I'll be honest, I think the ref got it right. I think that was a penalty. I think Cornet was in. Defender was never going to get back at him just because of his pace. He was running right in front of him, couldn't do anything. I think the defender panicked, put both of his hands on Cornet's back and give him a little shove. If you do that and the ref sees it, you're getting a penalty given against you. You don't have to hack somebody down in the area for it to be a penalty. Okay, the contact wasn't huge, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, like, if you want to experiment with it, go into a field, local park, whatever, run as quickly as you can, have your friend run behind you, and then have them give you a little nudge. I guarantee you it knocks you off balance. Wouldn't knock you off balance if you're just walking or jogging or whatever, but if you're running, more or less at full speed, and someone gives you a little nudge in the back, it's going to knock you off balance. And yeah, sure, Cornet, had he wanted to, maybe could have stayed up, but it's not on him to stay up. If he has been shoved and knocked off balance and he stays up, ref's probably not going to give him anything. And he knows this, but he has been shoved and he has been knocked off balance. And I think him going down is something he's actually quite entitled to do, because you have to make the ref give you a decision in those circumstances. I remember a game years ago, I can't remember who was going through, one of our players, and got clipped near the goal and knocked off balance. I'm going back a few years now at Upton Park. Someone in the chat will know this. A player got knocked off balance by an opponent with a tackle, went out of his way to stay on his feet, couldn't get a good shot in, and got nothing for it, even though it was a clear foul in the penalty area on him. So I understand why Cornet went down. I think he went down not because he was diving, but because he wanted to make sure that he made the ref make a decision. And the ref saw the hands on the back, and that was it. He gave it. So I don't think it was quite as soft a penalty as some people are making it out to be. Was it Matt Jarvis? Thank you, Ashley. Absolutely spot on. Matt Jarvis it was, who went out of his way to stay on his feet. So you get nothing from refs if you try to be too honest. Now, I'm not advocating for diving, not by any means. And I will never advocate for diving. I don't like it. And I think actually Areola's diving penalty area, despite the fact that it made the ref make a decision, and he made a soft one that went in our favour, but that was embarrassing to me, and I just don't like seeing West Ham players do it. So I'd rather Areola didn't do that. It's not a good look, and hopefully someone will have a word in his ear and just don't do that. It's I was furious when Mendy did what he did, that got our goal chalked off at Stamford Bridge. So I just don't like our players doing stuff like that. But I 100% do not put the Cornet penalty in that category. That to me is not a dive. I think a dive is a very specific thing where there's little to no contact, and you just throw yourself to the floor. I think there was enough contact there to knock him off balance, and I think he just decided, okay, he felt the contact on his back, knocked off balance, just decided he's going to allow himself to go down and make the referee, fingers crossed, give him the penalty. So I'm okay with that penalty, not a problem. And while I'm talking about Cornet, I think he's had a cracking start to his West Ham career. I really like Cornet. We've been so desperate for pace, so desperate for pace in this team, because it's one of the things we've been lacking the most, along with creativity. And now to have a player like Cornet with absolutely burning pace, I think is fantastic. He's very, very direct. He's always looking to run in behind the defenders. And I hope we'll see more of him in the Premier League, actually, because I think he can be an absolute weapon. Now, he did fade later in the second half, but I think that's because he did so much running. I think he just ran out of steam, and he started to become less and less effective. But I think, for the first kind of 70 minutes or so, I thought Corney was excellent, especially first half. He caused them a lot of problems. In fact, I think some of our players need to actually wise up to the way Corney plays. Now, I'm sure that will come with time, but they've got to get used to the way he plays quickly. They've got to always be looking for those runs and release the ball. There were a couple of times where he was caught offside because the ball was not released quickly enough. He is very fast and always looking to get in behind. That ball has to come into him very quickly. Release it. Don't take a couple of touches. Just get that ball in behind. And if it comes to a foot race, Corney will probably 9 times out of 10 win that foot race and get there first. So I think we need to wise up to that a little bit tactically, and hopefully that will come in time when the players have played with him a bit more. But he looks an absolute weapon, Cornet. I mean, he's goal involvement for us already, I think, has been phenomenal when he's played. He's been involved in a number of things. So I'm really excited about that. And in fact, we'll come to the Everton game later, and we'll be talking more about Cornet on that one. And I thought there were some good performances last night. I think Declan Rice is, again, okay, I don't think he had a storming game. We've seen him play better, but I think that midfield was all wrong. I think the formation was all wrong. I do not like this wing-back formation with 3 at the back. We tried it in the first half at Villa. It was a disaster. I think we just got completely overrun in midfield again, with Rice and Lanzini in there. I just don't like it, I have to say. And I'll be very, very worried if we play that formation at Goodison Park. I don't think that's going to do it and do us any good. So I don't know if Moyes intends to stick with this and try to get the players used to it. We'll wait and see. Evening. Thanks for joining, and stick around because we're going to be talking about West Ham at Everton later in the show. So hang around. As for Dynamite, any news on Aguerd? Well, all we really know about Aguerd at the moment, I think, is that he is back in the gym. He's doing some gym work, which means he's still a ways away. He's not on grass yet, basically. But the fact that he's in the gym and doing that work is obviously a good sign. I don't think it means he's going to be back necessarily very quickly, so don't expect that necessarily means that he's way ahead of schedule or anything like that. I think it'll still be some time before we see him. I think Moyes is going to be quite slow to bring him back in and reintroduce him anyway. And to be honest, look, there's no need to push Aguerd. There's no need to try and get him back sooner than we really need to. I think we've got enough cover there. We've got Oggy and Dawson are fully fit now again. So they're ready to play, and we've still got Zuma, we've got Kerr. So I think we're okay for the moment, but I still think it'll be a little while. I still don't expect to see Aguerd until sometime after the World Cup. But I mean, it's a good thing for us, I suppose, when we have a long-term injury like that, is that we spent a lot of money on Aguerd, and he's very highly rated, obviously, by Moyes. I don't know so much about him, but if he's as good as Moyes thinks he is, obviously he'll be a great addition to us at centre back, and I think we really need it because we're quite leaky still. So the World Cup at least means that we're not going to have any games for a month or so, and that's a month or so where Aguerd is getting back fit when we're not playing games, so he'll miss a lot less games than he would have last season, for example. So if we see him before January, that would be great, but I wouldn't necessarily expect it. I think as long as the other centre backs remain healthy, I think Moyes will take his time with him and make sure we don't rush him back from this injury, make sure it heals up fully and correctly, so that we're not dealing with this issue down the road. So yeah, but yeah, we're all looking forward to seeing Aguerd, see what he can do in a West Ham shirt. But it's kind of a bonus to us, really, that when Aguerd got injured, Moyes went to who I think was his second choice probably in Kerrer and got him in on the cheap from PSG, and he's come in and done a really good job. He looks really good. He didn't look as comfortable in the back three, funnily enough. I thought he was going to thrive as a right-sided centre back in the three. But even he looked a little shaky at times last night. But generally, he's been excellent, Kerrer. I think last night the problem was the formation. I think the players are just not used to it. And I think they're struggling a little bit with it still. I don't know whether there's an issue with the players actually not liking the formation. Hopefully that's not the case. But like I said, it'll be interesting to see if Moyes sticks with this. I'll be really worried on Sunday if he goes out with wing-backs. And I think the thing with the wing-back formation for me is that when you're playing that formation, your most important players on the pitch are the wing-backs. They've got to be absolutely spot on. I mean, you've got to have great wing-backs if you're going to play the wing-back system, because they're just so important to the formation. And I just think Sofal is not a great wing-back at all. And Emerson on the other side, again, only an okay player. I think they're both much better as orthodox left backs. So I don't think we can really get away with playing the wing-back formation if it's going to be, either Cresswell or Emerson on left, or if it's going to be Sofal on the right. I just don't think that's going to work. I mean, we let Fredericks go this summer. And funnily enough, actually, when we did play the wing-back system at times over the last couple of seasons under Moyes, Fredericks, when he's played there, because Sofal has been out at times with suspensions and injuries, and Fredericks has come in, I actually think Fredericks is a better wing-back than Sofal. I think Sofal is a better right-back than Fredericks, but Fredericks, I thought, played really well as a wing-back over that side. I think it really suited his game. It doesn't suit Sofal. And I think if we're going to persist with this kind of formation going forward, and if that was Moyes' plan for this season, that we'd use that system more often, I think he had to invest quite heavily, actually, on both sides in that position. Like if you look at Chelsea, I mean, they've often played under Tuchel, they've often played in that wing-back formation, and they've got like Reece James on one side, who's just an astonishing player, I think. I love Reece James. I think he's absolutely brilliant. And he's just a superb wing-back, just so much quality. And you need that on both sides, if you're going to play that system. And Chelsea have got two, so they've got one both sides. So you have to have that kind of quality if you're going to play the wing-back system. And so I'm really praying we're going to go back to flat back four on Sunday. I think if we don't, we're bang in trouble. So I'm actually going to go for the first time on the first show, because I don't want to rant too much early on. And we're going to go into some comments. So I'm going to have to come back a bit so I can fly through some of them and get some. And we're going to see who's in here. Who have we got in the chat? We're going to start here. James Bong, welcome. I love that you have Joan, everyone saying hi. Okay, here we go. When we threw it up, Moyes took Skamaka off and decided to go all defensive. Really not a fan of this style. We should have been looking to score more goals to finish the game off. Yes, Moyes has got a nasty habit of trying to sit on leads at times. He just never ever seems to go for the jugular. So even in games where we're on top and playing really well, where we're, say, 2-0 up, and there's every opportunity that we could go and score a third and really put a game to bed, he has a habit of just getting defensive. He'll take off an attacker and he'll bring on, depending on who's on the pitch already, of course, he might bring on somebody like Fornals to say, right, you're going to help shore things up. He'll bring on more defensive players. And I think that's a bad habit too. And he did it again last night, and he made the game much more difficult for us than it needed to be. And yeah, it's disappointing when he does that. Okay, so Howard Ailes, welcome, Howard. I'm happy to go 1-0 down in the first half of games, only if we're scoring 3 in the second half. Don't know about that, Howard. If you could guarantee me the win every time we go 1-0 down, I'll take it, of course. But yeah, it's a nasty habit, Howard, and I think it's a habit we've got to get out of. Just these slow starts, I mean, they're going to catch up with us, and in the Premier League, we're not going to get away with that nearly as often as we do in the Conference League. We do have a lot of new players too. Are we expecting too much? I'll tell you what, Joan. Not really. I don't think we're expecting too much just for that reason. But you may have a point when it comes to, are we expecting too much to integrate these new players and try to integrate all of the players into a new system? So I think when you have a few new players coming in, you'd like them to come into a settled team, in a settled formation where the regular players who've already been there really know what they're doing. They understand the formation, it's settled, everyone knows their job, and then those players can help out the new players and help them get. But when the new players have got the settled players being unsettled by a formation that they're not used to, and they don't maybe particularly like playing yet, then that can cause problems. So it's more difficult, I think, for the new players when the players that are established are kind of struggling a bit with this formation, and even they don't quite seem to know how to handle that formation. So I don't think it's just about having so many new players. I think switching the formation up to something that the players that are already aren't as familiar with it is not helping them to settle in, to be quite frank. Anton, Scamacca, worst case scenario, needs a run of games now, possibly some time for Everton, but therefore start game for Wolves and stay in the team. Yeah, I think it's time. You have to wonder, what does Moyes really need to see from him? For him to get him started and keep playing him game after game now. But clearly, he's a goal scorer. But I think the problem we have is that Moyes loves Antonio. And you can see why. You can understand, Antonio brings a lot to the team. I'll never slate Antonio or get in his back too much, because I think he's been a brilliant servant for us. And I think he plays his heart out every time he plays. Absolutely plays his heart out. And he has a lot to recommend him. He does a lot of good things. Well, the problem is he doesn't score goals. Just far too few. There's few and far between. We really need someone up there who can score goals, and that clearly is Scamacca. But Moyes loves Antonio. Do you see him dropping Antonio for the Everton game? I don't see it. And Moyes just does not really play two up top very often. Maybe we could see it sometime in the 5-3-2. Perhaps Moyes will try something like that with Antonio and Scamacca up there. But I don't think we're likely to see it from this beginning of a game. I think it's much more likely to happen maybe if we need a goal or something kind of in the second half of a game. He might decide to throw a little bit of caution to the wind. But even then, you wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't do it. You'd wonder if there's a potential for him to decide that he does want Scamacca on the pitch because he's in form and he's scoring goals, and that maybe he'll drop Bowen and move Antonio out onto the right-hand side. I think that's a definite option for us. I think 100% that's an option. Antonio's been very good out there when he's played, and there's not as much pressure on him to go and get a goal because he's not leading the line. So that would be something I wouldn't mind seeing, for example, at Goodison. If he went down that route, and, maybe Cornet on the left, the way he's playing. He's played on the left a bunch of times. He's very familiar with that position on the left wing. With Paqueta in the number 10 and then Scamacca up top. I mean, I think that would be a fantastic front four. I think it would give Everton just so many problems. But but we'll see. But as for an orthodox 9 and 10 up top, like you used to have back in the day, I think you might be waiting a while to see that from Moyes, frankly. Let's see what we have here. Downs was out there and the team stayed to train there, so I'm hoping Downs gets minutes on Sunday. Yeah, Downs is something I wanted to touch on actually with the Silkeborg game. This is another one I just didn't understand at all. I was happy enough with the team. Delighted to see Dawson back. I love Dawson. I think we all do. I was really happy to see him back, but I couldn't understand whatsoever that Downs was on the bench and Lanzini started. No, Lanzini played okay against Silkeborg. He wasn't terrible. Certainly wasn't nearly as bad as he was against FCSB last week. But I just couldn't understand why Downs wouldn't start beside Rice. I mean, Downs was man of the match for me last week against FCSB. I thought he had an absolutely brilliant game. And he looked like he had a really natural partnership with Rice, because Downs was able to just sit, break up play, get on the ball, always made himself available for passes, didn't give the ball away. He's a superb passer of the ball. Okay, a lot of his passes are relatively safe, but that's okay. I don't mind that, because his job is not to create. His job is to break up opposition attacks, make himself available for his teammates, help to defend, and I thought he did that superbly. And I think it also gave Rice that freedom to get forward, where he knows that he's got Downs behind him who's going to sit and who's capable of doing a real proper defensive midfielder's job if and when we lose the ball. So it gives Rice that peace of mind that he can go and supplement the attack and try and make things happen. He can carry the ball upfield, which is brilliant at doing. And I thought that dynamic worked absolutely brilliant against FCSB. And Lanzini had a stinker in that game. Let's be honest. He was awful. He got hooked at half-time. He was so bad. And then for Downs to be left on the bench and Lanzini to start last night is just completely baffling. And I think it actually really helped Silkeborg to take control for large periods in that midfield and keep possession of the ball. It just made life much more difficult for us. But the one thing I'll say is that performance from Downs last week, I think, gave me an awful lot of hope, because there was a time not so long ago where Moyes had spoken about Downs and said he doesn't feel like he's ready, that he still has some work to do to make that step up from Championship to Premier League. And even Flynn Downs himself had said that even he was surprised at how big the difference is going from training with Swansea City to training with West Ham, with real proper Prem players. So there was a little worry there, in the back of my mind, like, is he going to be able to make that step up and improve himself enough that he can be with us long term, and potentially even be a midfield partner for Declan Rice going forward. Because we all want him to succeed. He's a West Ham lad from a West Ham family. This was his dream move. It's a romantic story that we all love. And so there's an awful lot of goodwill toward Flynn Downs from the fan base. And so we all really want him to make it. And that really encouraged me last week, that performance. Granted, okay, not against a great team, but it shows that he's got something about him. And I loved the dynamic between him and Rice. I think it works. And I would have loved to have seen it again last night. And I think, frankly, it was a tactical howler from Moyes that he didn't start him. So let's hope he gets more game time going forward. Daniela, I think we in this country can be a tad arrogant when it comes to other leagues and their teams. Some of these leagues are not as bad as we think. Possibly, yes. But if I'm honest, Daniela, I do think Silkeborg are a limited team. But I actually think you might be right in the sense that I think in the second half we were very complacent. I think we went in 3-1 up. I think the players thought, yeah, we've got this. We'll walk through this lot. second half's going to be a breeze. It's going to be a cakewalk. We're going to have no problems here. And I think they just relaxed and took their foot off the gas. And I think they allowed Silkeborg to dictate terms in the second half. And I didn't like that attitude from the players. I really didn't. And looking at Moyes' face on the sideline, to be completely honest, I don't think Moyes was particularly impressed with the attitude of a lot of the players in the second half. So I take your point, and I think it's a good one. I think certainly in the second half, I think that was an element of what made it a more difficult night than it should have been. So I wonder if Downs was one of those players who Moyes was worried about playing on the surface. Obviously, it's hard to know what David Moyes is thinking. Possibly. But I wouldn't accept it as an excuse, to be completely honest. I wouldn't accept it as an excuse. Why keep saying he's got all these new players to deal with when you don't play all of them anyway? Plays the old school still. Yeah, he does integrate them slowly. But I think the reference was more to last night, maybe. We did have a few on last night. But no, I don't think it's much of an excuse either, to be completely honest. Good to see Dawes back on Sunday. Play Dawes and Zuma back and move Kera into midfield. That's a possibility. Excuse me. That's a possibility. That's one of the good things with Kera. He's a utility player. He can cover a few positions. Dawson. It's just fantastic to have him back. He's such a great player. Scored again. He's just lethal from corners. He just absolutely attacks the ball with no fear whatsoever. Doesn't care if he gets hurt. And again, I think he headed it onto his shoulder and it went in last night. But, Bell and Dawson probably meant it. They were just showing off. Brilliant to see him back. I think, unfortunately, we'll probably lose him in the short term, whether it'll be January or the end of the season, which is a damn shame because I love Dawson. You could put Dawson in beside Zuma. They've played together plenty. Kerr in, but that's not going to happen. Moyes has certain players that he just plays, it seems, almost no matter what. And I think Souček is one of those. Bowen's another one. He'll just play them. I think Antonio was another one in the Premier League, certainly. I think they're players that Moyes just is going to start. I think Cresswell, more, maybe not as much Cresswell, but to a lesser extent. But I think if Cresswell is fit and ready to go Sunday, I think you're going to see Cresswell. It could be done, but I don't see it happening. It's a pity. Yes, just a little plug. Hope you're enjoying our Late Show reboot. Please hit the thumbs up. Yes. I don't want to be a beg, and I'm not going to be asking you every week to do this, but it's my first show tonight. So this is the kind of pilot episode, as it were, of the Late Show. So if you guys could take a second just to scroll up to the top there and hit the little thumbs up for me, it'll just help to push the video out and get it up on people's timelines on YouTube, and maybe more people will see it. I promise I won't ask next week or any other week, just this week. If you can give me some thumbs up just to kind of get me rolling, I'd really appreciate it, guys. Thank you. Okay, what else we got? Areola impersonating Flapianski. Yeah, that was a shame. So as I said, great and certain teams know how to win ugly. Yes, he did. And yes, they do. But we're not a great and successful team, unfortunately. We haven't won anything. We're not going to challenge at the top. I think that was a bit of a worry. I think some of the things Moyes does is a worry. And I think we got away with one last night. And if Moyes is going to start using this formation and these kind of tactics in the Premier League, I think he's going to be making a rod for his own back. So I wish we were a great and successful team. Skameka has to start because he's a striker and he scores, and it would be bad to drop him. Completely agree, Joan. Soft but was a penalty, I agree. Yeah, definite penalty. A different ref and we lose that. Very possibly. very possibly lose it. Certainly could have drawn that game very easily. Yeah, the ref, I thought, did us a few favours. Clear pen, defo shove, yep. If you're sprinting, it doesn't take much to shove. No, it doesn't. If you're sprinting, try sprinting, have someone give you a little shove in the back, you'll go over. A different referee gets something from the Chelsea game. Yeah, true. Yeah. Different VAR team, maybe. I'm going to touch on that for a second. I'm going to go back because that's still annoying me, to be completely honest. Like, my understanding was that VAR is supposed to get involved only if there's like clear and obvious error from the referee. Now, the referee on the pitch surely has to be allowed to give his own interpretation of what he sees. He has to. He's the on-field referee. Now, just because the referee in the VAR room thinks, oh, I would have maybe viewed that a little differently, so what? You're not on the field. You're not the referee. It doesn't matter if you might have viewed it differently. If the ref has seen it, which he did, and has decided there's no problem there is absolutely no excuse for the ref in the VAR room sticking his nose in. It's none of his business. It's up to the referee on the field to decide for himself if he thinks there's anything there or not. He didn't. It doesn't matter if the VAR ref views it differently. It's none of his damn business. It really isn't. That should not have been interfered with by VAR whatsoever. Nothing to do with VAR. Absolutely nothing. That's up to the referee on the field to interpret that the way he interprets it. So that's my 2 cents on that. I won't get. We've talked about that a lot, I'm sure, over the last couple of weeks. We'll leave it. If it's printing, it's because I'm off balance. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Been there. Matt Jarvis, yes, thank you. I think you read that. I'll try and get through some of these if I can, because I really appreciate you guys being here for my pilot show. Bolt must have been an imbalanced soul then. Usain Bolt? Yeah, no one can catch him to give him a shove. So, but I guarantee you, when he's at full tilt, anyone gives him even a little tip on the back, he's going to go over. Daniela, like I said on another channel, top 6 and European football is a squad game. So we have to get used to a lot of rotation this season. Ramon last season that Moyes was always playing the same players. Yes, agreed. Obviously, we're going to have rotation, particularly in the group stages. I think obviously there will be less and less rotation as the tournament goes on. I think once we get to the knockout phase and possibly depending on the draw, I think as the tournament goes on and we hopefully progress further and further into it, we'll see less and less rotation. We'll start to see more and more of the kind of Premier League 11 playing in those games. But yeah, look, it's good to have a squad. Look, don't get me wrong. I'm delighted. Listen, the personnel on the pitch largely last night, I don't have a problem with. I really don't. Personnel-wise, I was just really disappointed that Downs didn't start instead of Lanzini. The other players on the pitch, I have no problem with them being on the pitch playing in that game against Silkeborg. I just think Moyes got it completely wrong, just tactically. I think not playing Downs beside Rice was a tactical mistake. I think playing the wing-back system was a tactical error. I think he just got it wrong. So it's not really the rotation that bothers me, Daniela, and it's not any of the players that were on the pitch last night. Yeah, so, but yeah, we'll get lots of rotation. That's fine. We've got a squad, thankfully, now that we can do that. Cornet and Downs are superb signings for us. Yeah, they look like they're going to be really great long-term signings. I think we can get a tune out of it. Very good, Jerry. Very droll, but I love it. The Aguero injury and all the CBs being half crocked has upset Moyes' plan of keeping a clean sheet for us and presenting goals on the break. Certainly, and it may have even upset his intention to play 3 centre-backs more often. So we're about to find out. And if we are going to play that, we better bloody hope, and he better bloody hope that those players get used to it real quick. And it was an Aguero, I think I covered that. And it was on Ashby as well. No, I haven't heard anything about Ashby. But he's completely off the radar, which suggests to me that he's picked up a knock. But hopefully nothing major. But if anybody in the chat has any idea about that, please let me know. I've heard nothing actually. Things have been very quiet about Ashby. Let me see, what have we got here? Okay, problem with Oggy and Zuma and a bit of Dawson. They're only effective in a low block due to lack of pace. Aguerd was key to us playing a higher line and pressing in the middle and final third. Yeah, I agree with that. And I actually was thinking after the Chelsea game, we played a high line in that Chelsea game. And I don't think we can do that whatsoever if Zuma and or Dawson, probably even Oggy really, although to a lesser extent, are going to be on the pitch. I really don't. I think the likes of Zuma and Dawson, they've got to be in and around the edge of the box, facing the play. And I think they're superb at that. I think when they're facing the play and they're sitting deeper, they're superb. But that Chelsea game with that high line, I mean, Zuma just went missing. He just went walkabout up the pitch. And I actually felt sorry for Kerr because he was having to try and put out fires. I mean, the amount of space that Zuma left in behind him, he left Kerr completely stranded. You can't do that. We can't play a high line with those. I completely agree with that sentiment. Here, I think teams may be playing friendlies during the World Cup. I would hope so, actually. It's not ideal whatsoever for players to be just doing training for that long without a game when it's not pre-season. Even in pre-season, you've got your friendlies. So I would hope we'd organise some friendlies during the World Cup. I think players need games, and I think they prefer games anyway. There's only a certain amount of training you can take. I think it gets a bit boring. And Moyes needs 2 CBs come January window. Why? Why do you think we need 2 centre backs come January? You think we're going to lose 2? I don't know if we need 2. I think all we have to do is replace Dawson if and when he goes. But other than that, I think we've got 4 there. Very good. I don't think we've got Aguerd coming back too. So if Dawson doesn't go in January, we're going to have 5. I think 5 is plenty. So I have to disagree. Sorry. Are there any Irish players in Irish leagues that are worth looking at? No. We don't produce players that really very rarely anyway that are going to be worth a damn in Premier League level. I know we've got a couple of lads from Northern Ireland now in the round. We'll wait and see how they go. Marshall looks a really good prospect, but then I'm a bit slow to big up players on the under 21s because like a few years ago I was rattling on about Martinez for a while. He was absolutely banging him in left, right, and centre down there. I thought he was going to be great, and it didn't quite happen. So we'll see. But really, no. Not that I'm aware of, anyway, that there's anything special in League of Ireland at the moment, unfortunately. Arthur was a wing back, sure, technically, but didn't really look like one. He was crap. Fourth of first hour looks more balanced and settled. Yeah, first half we did okay. I still was a little worried. First half, I just didn't like the amount of periods of the game where we allowed them to dictate the play so much. There were times when they had like possessions of periods of possession, for a long time, and we weren't really pressing as much as I would have liked. We weren't putting their passes under enough pressure because I think they would have coughed up the ball. When we did use the high press, we had some joy with that. I mean, Skamaka's goal came just from pressing high and forcing them into an error. So yeah. However, further was what we played in the series. Regan Thomas, let's be happy with what we've done this summer. Things come right when the team gels. That's the hope. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Look, the signings have been fantastic. I've really liked all the signings. I think they're great. But Moyes needs to be careful, and we'll come to that later. He's got to get a tune out of this team. Yeah, exactly. Couldn't have put it better myself. Um, there's a reason we overachieved 2 seasons with the squad we had. He knows what he's doing. Yeah, look, he's last 2 seasons. I think he's done tremendously well. I think he's punched above his weight. Actually, to be fair to him, not that we've had a crap team. It's just that we've had no real squad depth, and we've also had to deal with injuries, suspensions, and I think really overplaying players, and he's still managed to get enough of a tune out of him to do what we've done. So for the last 2 seasons, absolute kudos to David Moyes, no question about it. David's legend, would rather be a solid, hard-working team as a base, get into our stride, will be loving life again. Yeah, hopefully, Ray. I mean, again, I'm going to get onto the Moyes thing in a while, and we'll see what the emotions are in the chat. So, but look, I don't want to talk all night about the single game. So we're going to move on, and we're going to go to this. So we're going to move on to Sunday. So obviously we travel to Goodison on Sunday. We really need a win. Really need a win. We've got to take 3 points, I think, from this. And obviously get your comments in, any questions really you have for me in the chat now about Sunday's game. Keep away at the moment from Moyes' future. We were going to get to that, and I'm sure there's going to be lots you have to say for that. But for now, we're just going to talk about our trip to Everton on Sunday. I believe that one's live. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that game's live on the telly box. So you won't have to go, hopefully most of you won't have to go searching for streams for that one. I think there's some pressure on Moyes going into this game, I have to say. I think he needs a win. And more than that, I think we need a good performance. A win obviously is most important. Just get the 3 points for hook or by crook. But I think the early going in the Premier League has been relatively poor. We've had some flashes where we've played well. I thought second half against Villa, I thought we played well. Didn't pull up any trees, but I thought we played well. I thought we were a bit unlucky against Forest. I thought we played well in periods in that game and really ought to have won it. So it hasn't been all bad, but we haven't really had a performance yet. We haven't really had a game where you just thought, yeah, this is the West Ham I really wanted to see this season. I would love to go out and see us just have a great game against Everton. I don't mind what the scoreline is so much as long as we win, but I'd love to see where we get a performance, proper performance, where we're in our pump and where everyone's at it, where we're talking afterwards about, there's 7s and 8s all over the place, maybe a 9 or something, a couple of 9s thrown in there from a couple of players. Probably one of them is going to be Rice, isn't it? But I would love to see really just a performance, even if that great performance, maybe we don't score, because Premier League is not easy to score, let's be honest. So even if it was like a 2-0, but the performance was really great, I think that would really perk everybody up, and we'd say, okay, maybe now we're really hitting the ground running. Team is starting to get into its stride, and it would give us some real positivity kind of going forward. Team for Sunday. Okay, we'll get right into it. And actually, I'd love to see what your teams would be. Put that in for me in the chat, if you will. I'll go through what your teams are for Sunday, and I'll give mine. Now, I would revert back to the 4-2-3-1. To be completely honest, I like the formation. Players are used to it. We've had some great performances and results, mainly with that system. And I just don't trust this wing-back system because I don't trust our wing-backs enough. And I worry about what will happen to us in midfield against a Premier League team if Silkeborg can do that to us in that formation. In goal, I think before last night, I would have been, without hesitation, I'm saying it's Areola, 100% Areola. I'm faltering a little bit. Areola worried me last night. He was really shaky and, coming flapping at crosses and stuff. I mean, and that thing for the disallowed goal was just embarrassing. Um, Shaking my confidence in him a little bit, Areola. I don't know what was going on with him last night. I don't normally expect that of him. I normally see him as being very assured and, confident kind of keeper. Um, but yeah, I think because it was one evening, and maybe that was just kind of running through the team a bit last night. I'll go with Areola in goal, but I don't blame anybody for going with Fabianski. I really don't. It's not a hill I'm willing to die on. I wouldn't be one of the people kind of saying, "Oh, we have to get Areola and Fabianski must be taken out the team." I like Fabianski. Yeah, I know he at times can maybe be a little shaky as well. His positioning can be a little iffy. He can be a little flaky on crosses sometimes. But I still think he's a very good keeper, and he's been very good for us. So, but I'll go with Areola because I just think he's the future for us going forward, and I don't want to hang him for one kind of little shaky performance last night. Right back, it has to be Sofal. There aren't too many more options. I think, like I say, he's better at right back than he is at wing back. So even though he wasn't great last night, I still think at the moment he's our best option at right back. But I think actually, just to stay on Sofal for a minute, I'll be honest, like nothing against him. I think he's had some very good games for us. He had one great season for us when he came in. I thought, Jesus, this guy's way better than I was expecting. But I think now at this point, and he's not getting any younger, by the way. He's approaching 30. I think next season we really, really need to prioritise both fullback positions. I really do. And I think also we'll have Johnson back soon. And hopefully Ashby is only just out with a knock. And to be honest, when Ashby comes back to full fitness, I would start integrating him into the team and seeing what he's got. Because I think it's important for us to keep Ashby. I have a gut feeling about Ashby that he's going to be really, really good. But anyway, as regards Sunday, I think it has to be Sofal. Dawson being back obviously is fantastic. But I think Kehrer has just been so good since he came in. I've just really liked the look of him. I'd stick with him and Zuma at centre back. And left back is another issue for me. There are pros and cons to Cresswell and Emerson. And I'm not sold on Emerson yet. He does some good things and then he does some really bad things. But I like him going forward. I really like him going forward. So I probably would stick with Emerson actually for this one. I just feel like Cresswell has, even though he hasn't played terribly this season, I still feel like he's hit a wall. I really feel like this season he's on the decline a little bit. So I would put him in. And then Rice obviously starts. And then the question is, who goes beside Rice? There's a part of me that wants to try Downs. There is a part of me that wants to try Downs beside Rice. But I'm hesitant because, like I say, Premier League is a different kettle of fish to Conference League. And I don't know, I just feel like, is he ready? I don't know if this is the game I want to throw him into. We have to get the points. We've got to go there and win. And I do feel like Souček has improved a bit. It's not ideal for me to play Souček there. I don't really want to do it, but I just don't quite think Downs is ready for that yet. I'd be taking a gamble on Downs. I'd rather see more of Downs in the Conference League and start getting his confidence up, get him gelled in with the team a little more before I chuck him into a Premier League game, but I'm bloody tempted. And it mightn't take much to change my mind. Frankly, if you think you can change my mind in the chat, go for it, because you might be able to do it. I'm so tempted to play Downs. Souček has not been good this season, but he has improved a little bit. So for this game, I think I'll just have to stick with Souček. A little reluctantly, I have to say. But here's where I change things. I mentioned it earlier. I would play Antonio on the right wing. I really would. I would play Antonio. I still think it's his best position, where he does his best work. And Bowen, again, the other night, just was not good when he came on. He is not high in confidence. He's not playing well. And I think he needs a little rest. And I think he needs to come out. Not a rest because he's tired. I just think he needs rest, and he needs to concentrate in training on getting his form back. And I would put Antonio on the right. I think he can be just so effective on the right hand side. And like I said earlier, it takes the pressure off him as regards needing to score goals. There's not so much pressure on him. And I think he does a great job out on the right. He's still an important player for us, I think. So, yeah, and Paqueta has to go at number 10. We need to start getting him going and in his best position. I've liked what I've seen from him so far. Obviously, he's not set the world on fire yet, but I think that will come with more game time. He does have a little more settling in to do with his teammates, but the best way to do that is on the pitch and in playing games. So Paqueta, I think, is an easy decision at number 10. On the left, I would play Cornet. I feel a bit bad for Benrahma. He has played some very good games. So it's a little harsh on him to be stuck on the bench. But I just have loved what I've seen from Cornet. I just love his pace. I love his directness. He's got a bit of skill about him. He's got an eye for goal. He attacks the penalty area. He makes things happen. And he seems to have a really good understanding with Scamacca. It seems to be almost telepathic. Those two seem to have just clicked for whatever reason. So I want him on the pitch, and I would play Scamacca up top. He's a goal scorer who is scoring goals. He's a proper number 9. He's full of confidence, as I saw from his absolute thunder bastard last night against Silkeborg. So that would be my 11. Our usual system. I think that team would have a great chance. So, yeah, so tell me what you think. That's the team I would go with. Let's jump into the chat. I just want to see if we can get to... Oh, this thing, apologies now, this thing has just jumped down to the bottom of the chat. So I'm going to have to scroll back a bit just so I can read out some of these for you. So Lincoln Harper wants to see a 4-4-2. Yeah, nothing wrong with 4-4-2s. They're out of fashion, have been for a long time, but there's nothing wrong with them. But unfortunately, Lincoln, I think you're going to be waiting a long time to see one under Moyes. Ray Keane, is that your real name? Because it's very close to Ray Keane. We've come a long way together. I wanna celebrate you, Davey. I wanna praise you like I should. Okay, obviously you're still very much behind him. Good for you, mate. So I don't know what that reference is. What's your view on Paqueta so far? And do you think he'll be a good signing? Hopefully play in his best position. Paqueta so far, little mixed bag. We've seen some flashes from him. His little moments of brilliance. We saw one again the other night there against Silkeborg. Just a beautiful little flick. So yeah, I like what I've seen from him. Obviously, look, like I say, hasn't hit the heights yet, but I think that will come. So I think the more games he plays with his teammates, the more prominence he'll have in the games. I think the more he'll get involved, the more we'll see those little flicks and tricks, and the more I think he'll start affecting games. I've liked what I've seen. Hasn't set the world on fire, but that's okay. It doesn't have to right away. It'll come. Yeah. But I liked as well, he's not a prima donna. You know, he's not a Neymar type number 10. You know, he can get stuck in and he works hard. He'll put a tackle in, and you can see why Moyes signed him. I'm sure Moyes really likes that about him. I just don't want Moyes to turn him into a fucking workhorse. You know, I don't want Moyes turning him into that. Moyes has just got certain players. You just have to give them a bit of a free rein, kind of allow them to not do much of the donkey work. Kind of, you need a player like that. You just say, look, don't worry too much about the tracking back and the tackling, and I think he's turned Fornals into a workhorse. Go watch Fornals playing for Spanish under-21s. Different player. Moyes turned Fornals into a completely different player. And I just don't want him doing that with Paqueta. I think that would be disgraceful, actually. So, yeah, if he'll play Paqueta in at number 10, let him stay high up the field and in around that midfield, then I think, yeah, we will see the best of him soon. But I'm very encouraged by what I've seen so far. I like him. Yeah, I think there's the fullbacks we need to look at. Yeah, 100%. Got to look at fullbacks. I think that's one of our next priorities. We've taken care of a lot of things this summer, to be fair. So, yeah, I hope, Daniel, actually, that's my hope, is that next summer, I don't know how much we'll have to spend, but I think we've got to go out and get 2 young, exciting, and very, very talented fullback/wingbacks, players who can play both positions very comfortably. We were linked with some this summer, some really good, potentially exciting signings for those positions. Unfortunately, those didn't materialize, but maybe next summer, I think we do need them. Greg, Moyes has to go back to Fort the back on Sunday and release the shackles of Paqueta. Bernard session final third. Exactly, yeah. 100% agree with that. Be interested to see what team he plays. If Benran will come back in, or will he go with Corney, or will he revert to his usual kind of Fornals playing on the left alongside Paqueta and Bowen on the right? I'd be a bit disappointed. The thing is, I don't have anything against Bowen or Fornals. I love both players. I just think we need that to get some pace and creativity and attacking flair in there. So I'd like to see that. Shane Long, tip manager. Yes, Shane Long is from Tipperary. And not only that, he played for Tipperary in the hurling, not at senior level, but as a minor, which in GAA speak is under 18s. So he played under 18s hurling for Tipperary. He was a very good hurler, Shane Long. Anyway, this is going to be a funny old season. Early start, long break in the middle of it. I can see teams being dead on their feet in the last couple of months of the season. It'll depend. Some teams, maybe, if they've had quite a lot of players who've played a lot of games in the World Cup. But remember, look, a lot of teams will go out after the group stage, and the World Cup will still be going on for a while after that. So it's hard to say. This is a unique situation, but I think most teams will be okay as regards fatigue. You'll get certain players who will come back fatigued because they've gone deep into the tournament with their country. But I don't think you'll see squads that are, burnt out, because there's just going to be that many players from one team who've gone deep into the tournament. You'll get some individual players in teams, 1 or 2 maybe from some teams, 3 maybe from the very best teams who maybe went deep in the tournament. But yeah, I don't think squad-wise it's going to be a major issue. Okay, let's see. Ask me that. What was it for Sunday? Let's see what else we got here in the live chat. So it says, I think Everton have the same expectations as we do. We seem to go after the same level of player. It won't be a walkover. No, of course it won't. And I don't think anyone is expecting it to be a walkover. I don't think you'll hear any West Ham fans in the build-up to this game expecting to just turn up and smash Everton. I think you'll see quite some worry for that game. I think you'll see, we're going to be a bit coy about that one, because we haven't started the season very well. Ray Keane, we're due a big game, in fairness. We are due one. Let's hope we get one. Skameka must be near 100%. Yeah, Skameka is absolutely good to go. He looked really good last night. Looked like there was no issues there. Go 4 at the back. Definitely we need to get back to 4 at the back. Won't get any decision from officials with Oliver and Dean being VAR officials. Yeah, Christ, don't even start me on that. Going with Fabianski, absolutely fine. Areola, Zuma Dawson, Cressy, Cavell Rice down. Okay, so you're taking Kerr out of there. Interesting. Rice and Downs. Yeah, I was teetering on Downs, I must say. There's a part of me that would love to see it. Ben Rama back in, can understand that completely. He's been very good for the most part. Unfortunately, was ineffective after he came on last night. But yeah, he's overall, I think he's been really good. So I wouldn't have a problem with Ben Rama starting whatsoever. Corney. Oh, okay. So surreal frame. You're dropping Paqueta. That's an interesting one. Dropping Paqueta is a big call. Obviously, you haven't been overly impressed up to this point, I take it. Okay, Jabruri's got Fabianski in goal. Kerr at right back. Interesting. With Dawson, Zuma, and Cresswell. Socek and Rice, usual pairing. Paqueta, Benrahma, Cornet, Antonio, Orska, So you're undecided, Chipper. Chipper, I'm holding your feet to the fire. Pick one. Antonio or Scamacca. I'm not letting you off the hook. Okay. Debs, have you got? You got Fabs in goal? Yeah, I think Ariola's hurt himself with that performance last night. A lot of people going back to Fabs. Again, Kerr at right back. Interesting call, and not one I have a problem with, frankly. Zuma, Dawson, Cress. None of you at the moment picking Emerson for that left back slot. I think a lot of you maybe not overly impressed with him yet either. I'm not either. But yeah, we'll see. Rice and Downs again in midfield. Yeah, wouldn't mind it. You've got Paqueta, Cornet, Benrahma. Absolutely fine again. I'm assuming you've got Paqueta and the number 10, Benrahma left, Cornet right, and Skamek up top. Yeah, absolutely fine. That's a really nice front four. I mean, that's going to trouble Everton. Absolutely. Three blind mice in the varium, yes. Three blind mice who can't mind their own business and don't understand that referee on the field is entitled to interpret things his own way, and the VAR should not be getting involved just because the people in the VAR room might have interpreted it a different way. Bring the referee's attention to something you think he may not have seen. They could have come in the Chelsea game and said, "Did you see the touch from the little touch from Bowen on Mendy?" And if the ref says, "Yeah, I saw it," that's it. That's okay, mate. Just wanted to make sure you saw it. No problem. Other than that, mind your own business. VAR needs to stop getting involved where it's not wanted. Tommy, you're right about VAR. He wasn't himself. He definitely looked nervy. Yeah, I don't know why. It wasn't like him, actually. Areola was shaky, but he's not getting much game time. He plays once a month. He needs to start to play regularly. Yeah, possibly. It's hard to say again, what's in someone's head. But yeah, I mean, I do think he needs to play more. I'd like to see him start in the Premier League. Greg has got Fabianski, Sofal, Kerr, Zuma, Cresswell, so same back keeper and back four, Rice and Downs. Yeah, a lot of people putting Downs in. I don't mind it. Benrahma, Paqueta, Bowen, and Antonio. Okay, so you're sticking with Bowen. Not been in a great form. I know he was amazing last season, but I think Moyes' team is going to look very like that. You might see, because it's away from home, you're certainly not going to see Downs. I think you're going to see Socek in there. You might see Benrahma, but I suspect he'll put Fornells in there because we're away from home. I do think you'll also see Bowen and Antonio. So let me see. Mike Dean on fair duty, unfortunately. Yeah, Jesus Christ. Look at those players. It's hard to pick a team. I'll have the Fab, same keeper for Penos. Okay. Let's hope we don't give one away. Kerr right back. Yeah, we've had a few shouts about getting Kerr in at right back. That's an interesting one. Moyes is not managing Areola very well. I'm Moyes in, but if it was GSB, I would be concerned about how Moyes treats Areola and some other players. Yeah, he just trusts Fabianski. He just trusts him. He's been his keeper for a while now, and I can understand it. I can understand why Moyes still goes with Fabianski. We're not talking about Roberto here. Fabianski's still a decent keeper. I still prefer Areola, but I can understand why Moyes sticks with him. And I think Moyes definitely, for after last night, I think he's definitely going to be sticking with him Sunday. Oh, interesting one from Eamon Green. Kerr has been crap, to be fair, in my opinion. Hopefully, we'll get better when he reverts back to right back. I disagree. I disagree that he's been crap. I think he's been largely very good. I have to say, I think, been surprisingly good for me. Yeah, look, he's given away the penalty. I know that. Scored the own goal. I think the own goal was just bad luck. He had to go for that ball. The penalty, he was left hung out to dry by Zuma. He really was. He had to sprint back across the field to try and make an interception because Zuma went missing. But I think overall, I think to say Kerr's been crap is really harsh. Have to say I strongly disagree with that. I've really liked what I've seen from Kerr. He hasn't been perfect by any means. And last night, especially for their first goal, I think he could have done better. The whole team was kind of off a bit last night. I didn't think there were too many players on there last night for us that were great. But overall, I've been really happy, to be honest. New stadium taking shape in the Banks of Royal Rumors. Troy Paul Frost on YouTube to view. Yeah, that's the. Is your what's it going to be called? Is it still going to be Goodison Park, or are they going to have a new name for your stadium? Emerson and Kerr have been suspect. Maybe it's because Emerson needs game time and Kerr isn't playing his natural position. Yeah, they've had their moments, but every player has been suspect. I mean, what do you mean by they've been suspect? I think, every player. Would it be fair to say Bowen's been suspect? I think so. I think a number of players at various times have been suspect. But again, I think Kerr especially, I think largely has been pretty good. Emerson has blown hot and cold. Jury's really still out on Emerson, I think. He's done some good things, and then other times he's not looked very good at all. But then, Emerson hasn't had a lot of games for Chelsea. He's not had a lot of game time. Maybe he just needs to kind of get back into his rhythm. Moyes want to play defenders, Rice midfield, and Tony up top. We should let him do it. 2 left backs and 2 right backs and 4 central defenders. We'll probably get a 0-0. Get a point out of it, probably. Wouldn't be much to look at, but we'll probably get a point. Lenny needs to be dropped and seen off into the sunset. Unfortunately, he's not up to Premier League standards anymore. No, unfortunately not. I don't think so. And I think he will be sailing off into the sunset, unfortunately. So, but we'll see. What else have we got? Okay, I'm going to fly down to the bottom here because I'm never ever going to get to the end. So Fornell is an amazing player for us, and he should be getting a lot more respect than he does. Yeah, I think he's always kind of had mixed opinions. People have always had mixed opinions about him, I think. Fornell's. I've always liked him. But I just think there are certain games where he doesn't need to be on the pitch. I think he plays sometimes again, and I mean this just purely from a tactical point of view. I think he brings a lot to the team, Fornells, and he can do a really good job in certain games and in certain circumstances off the bench. He's the right player to have on the pitch. But I do think actually he plays sometimes in games where we don't need him to be on the pitch, and where what we really need in that position is someone with more attacking flair and some pace. So I agree with you on that one. Okay, so we're going to move on from that one. Okay, so let me see. Actually, I need to get rid of that first. And Kerr didn't play right back. His passing. The back has been very good. So got stuck in. Yeah, I think Kerr can do a job. Definitely at right back, he could do a job. No question. Okay, so we're going to get into the meat of it now. This is why we're all here. David Moyes. There are rumblings now. And to be honest, they're happening a bit earlier than I would have expected. Because, his last 2 seasons, I think, the fan base has gotten absolutely completely behind him, the whole Messiah thing. We've had 2 tremendous seasons, finishing 6th and 7th in the league and getting to a semi-final of the Europa League, which was a great achievement, and only for the moment of madness from Aaron Cresswell. Who knows what might have happened? Who knows? Maybe things would have been different. Maybe we'd have actually won a trophy, and a big one at that. and obviously finished 7th last season, and we're competing in Europe again. So overall, I think Moyes has done absolutely tremendously, and I think he has punched above his weight, given how thin the squad was. We didn't have a lot of strength and depth, and I think this is going to rumble on, especially depending on what happens on Sunday at Goodison. But I want to know what you think about this. That there are people right now, probably not very many right now, but there are some calling for David Moyes' head. There are people who think he should go, like right now. There are people who are convinced that David Moyes will not get the best out of this team. So I want to hear what you think. No, there are others who are absolutely 100% behind him. And there are others then again who are unsure, who are starting to teeter a little bit, not quite sure if they want him to stay or go. Want to give him a bit more time. I'm in the camp that wants to give him more time. I think it's too early. I think he does have credit in the bank, from the previous 2 seasons and what he's done. I think he's done a tremendous job overall in both seasons. Not flawless. I think there are things he has done as well which I would question, particularly in the second half of last season. I think even despite the fact the bench wasn't as strong as it might have been, I still think he flogged too many players too much. And I think we did lose points in the second half of last season, particularly in the run in the last 10 games, where I wasn't happy with him, where I think he made errors that did cost us points and potentially cost us Europa League again. So by no means has he been perfect, but I don't think any manager is. He has made mistakes, but overall, I think he's done exceedingly well. I have to say, he's done exceedingly well. But the pressure's on him now. This is where the pressure comes on for Moyes, because he has been backed massively in the transfer window. Absolutely massively. He's got a really good squad of players now. We saw, you look at the 5 players that came off the bench last night, and we had a strong team on the pitch starting. And then you look at the players that came on last night. He's got a really strong squad here. There's quality pretty much throughout the squad, maybe with the odd exception. Maybe in the fullback positions, we could be stronger. Maybe we could use another striker as a third place backup or whatever. But overall, it's got a very strong squad. We can put out a really strong bench, better than a lot of teams in the Premier League can put out. And with the money that's been spent this summer, I think he's got to start getting it right sooner rather than later. We can't be hovering around the bottom of the table for much longer, because I think then the pressure really does come on. And I don't mean just from fans who are starting to waver on him, who've seen enough. There are already fans who are not a fan of the way he sets up and his style of play. But they'll put up with it if we're winning games. You'll brush those things under the carpet. If we're winning and getting results and being successful, then you can live with how we're doing it. But if we're not playing really great football and being quite defensive and we're leaking goals, the pressure is going to come on if the results aren't coming. And the results haven't been coming. And the performances haven't been coming. So I think if this goes on for much longer, I think it's going to get a bit difficult for him, despite what he's done the last 2 seasons. Because you know how it is. The Premier League now, there's not much patience in it. This is the what have you done for me lately league. And what he's done the previous 2 seasons might not buy him as much time as he thinks. So the pressure could come on from upstairs, because, whenever a chairman or a board shell out money, to the tune of 180 odd million in spending, they expect to see results for that. They expect the team to be up in and around top 5 and 6 in the Premier League. So Moyes doesn't need us hovering down where we are for very much longer. He's got to start getting results. Like I say, I would give him more time. I'd give him a few more games. because I think he's earned the right to try and turn this around. And I do think it's premature to start talking about, Moyes out at this point. But talk to me in a few games. If we haven't been winning and we're still down there in around the bottom three, then I think I'll be really wavering at that point as well. So I'm gonna just have a look in the chat here and just try to gauge. Go back to where we start talking about Moyes. Let's see now. Forgive me, because it jumps down to the bottom of the chat, so I have to scroll back up through it. So I think we're getting somewhere here now. Just bear with me for a second. Okay, this is the first one, I think. So it's Eamon Green. Like I say, anyone who wants Moyes out needs to first take a long, hard look at themselves, and secondly, look at our history with team on the up. They're going to be bumps along the way. Yeah, and I think a lot of people would share that opinion, to be honest. But as I say, the longer it goes on, the players play out of skin the last 2 seasons despite Moyes interfering. That's an interesting take. Elaborate on that, Jim. Elaborate on that statement. Despite Moyes interfering, he's the manager. Interfering is kind of his job. Yes. Explain what you mean exactly by interfering. In what way do you think he interfered in ways he shouldn't have? We need to see how the next 4 games go, and then the board needs to make a decision. I think we need to give Moyes more time. He's trying to integrate new players, which is not easy. Yeah, I think he should get more time, and I believe he will. I don't think he's under any major pressure right now, but that will come if the results don't. We should give Moyes until mid-January. If the team isn't gelled by then and not performing, then maybe time for a change. Next question is who? I'll tell you what, I'd be surprised if he gets till mid-January if we're hovering around the wrong half of the table, to be completely honest, especially if we're hovering near the bottom. I don't think there's any way he survives till mid-January in those circumstances. Daniela, I'm with you, give him more time. Moyes has done a great job. I feel guilty for being slightly Moyes out. I think if you keep Moyes, then you need to do it his way, by the type of players he wants, embrace being defensive. He got the players he wanted. There's no question he got the players he wanted, and he was heavily backed. So he's going to have to start getting wins and move us up the table. And I think he has to do it relatively quickly. Moyes has done a fantastic job and deserves way more time. However, I do get frustrated with the way we play at times with the players we have. We struggle to break teams down. The buck stops with him. Yeah, ultimately the buck stops with him. I think we all get frustrated because he can be quite negative at times. There are many times, particularly when we're playing teams that are clearly not as good as us. And he still plays coy. He still kind of gives up a certain amount of the game to them. Instead of, there are teams we should go out there and we should be positive and get at them and just say, look, we're better than you. We're going to come out here. We're going to attack you. We're going to get after you, and we're going to beat you. But it would be refreshing to see Moyes do that from time to time. I don't mean gung-ho and be silly about it, but just be positive and attacking and get after these teams. There are teams in the Premier League down the bottom half of the table that are just not that good and that we can beat by just taking them on. And I wish Moyes would just take teams on sometimes. It's just not in his nature, though. Of course, give him time, stability, settle the squad. He's the chosen one, sure. Yeah, I do think give him time, and he will. Stability is important. Yeah, you definitely don't want to be a Watford. You don't want to be changing managers constantly. It doesn't do anything for anyone. So yeah, I think he will get more time. Certainly, I don't think he's any under immediate pressure. But I also think he's got to start turning this season around now. He's got the players he wanted. He's been backed. Let's start seeing the performances and the results, please. The pressure has been on Moyes since we finished 6th in the league. yeah, I suppose Moyes has created a certain amount of expectation for himself. So that's what we expect now. We've gotten accustomed to, finishing that high, top 6, 7, playing in Europe. So if we fall back into the pack, mid-table or bottom half, I think that will get him the sack now. So that's he could become a victim of his own success, no question. The question for me is that so many players have started the season out of form. If Moyes has somehow caused this, then the pressure's on him. But if he hasn't caused this, then is it his fault? No, not necessarily his fault. Not necessarily his fault that players are out of form. I don't think it's his fault that Bowen isn't playing well. But what will be his fault is if he just keeps playing Bowen. Souček was dog shit at the beginning of the season, first 3 or 4 games, absolute dog shit. He kept playing him. Bowen has not been playing well whatsoever. Still playing him. That's his fault. Not his fault necessarily that they're out of form, because they're not out of position. Bowen played a blinder last season at right wing. He's still playing right wing, not playing well. Souček, as we know, at one time was absolutely fantastic in that position beside Rice. Has been dog shit this season, still being played. That's on Moyes. Where am I now? When I expecting a defensive manager set up like Klopp, this contradiction makes Moyes' position untenable long term. That's possibly true. That is possibly true. Moyes has spoken, though. See, I have some hope. Moyes has spoken about the team needing to evolve, and I hope that happens. I hope the team does evolve, because I agree with you. I think it has to, Vinay. I think it has to evolve. I think he can't stay defensive and can't keep playing coy, because I do think that will make his position untenable. I think it will cost him his job in the end. I think he's got to let the shackles off and trust these players, trust the quality that he has in the side more than he has been. So I agree with you on that. Not much patience with certain fans. We've been more successful than we have when we've sourced the manager to when we haven't. Looking back at our history, will tell you that. Yeah, I think the fans largely are still behind Moyes. I don't think there are many calling for his head right now, to be fair. Very few. And I think an awful lot of fans are still, as we're seeing in the chat here, giving more time because he has earned it. But I think as the weeks go on, if this continues, I think you will see more and more fans switching to the Moyes out side or switching to the really wavering side of it. So we've always had rumblings about something at West Ham. It's the West Ham way, but I really miss the relegation battles year in, year out. So Moyes out and willing to march for it. Yeah, well said, James. We all miss those relegation battles, don't we? This is shit, this. Playing in Europe, finishing top 6 and 7. Not for me. It's just not West Ham, is it? Yeah, just close your eyes and picture Big Sam. It'll soon pass. Yeah, it'll pass very quickly. That would be like a dose of salts. Does Moyes play too much defensive? We're still leaking goals, though. Yeah, it's almost a contradiction in terms, isn't it? That we're quite defensive, and we're still leaking too many goals. He's got to get a handle on that. We can't keep conceding the way we were. We're too open. Where is Session Stilgard? He left the network. Yes, he did. Sorry, this is between you guys. Such an appropriate word, Irish Tommy. Patience and expectation with fans from all clubs today is almost non-existent. Yeah, there's just not as much of it as it. Managers definitely got more time back in the day. I mean, you look at how many managers we had. We've had very few managers, even now. West Ham, traditionally, going back all the way to our foundation, have been incredibly patient with managers. Incredibly patient. Watford have probably had more managers in the last 10 years than we've had in our history. Okay, where were we? It's a rough patch. We'll be grand. The results will come. The squad is a big positive. Keep the faith. Remember the bad times. These are the good times. Yeah, well, that's it. I think, again, people largely have a healthy attitude to the start of the season. But again, we lose on Sunday and we're still in the relegation zone. The opinions will change very quickly. You'll be surprised how many people might go the other way. Just started sleeping again, not picturing Big Sam. Downs played very well the other game, but didn't get a look in the other night. I thought that was ridiculous, to be completely honest, that Lanzini started over him. Don't understand it whatsoever. I think in 100 years we had 6 managers. Yeah, there were 3 FA Cup wins, Champions League, Intertoto Cup. Last 20 years we had something like 10 managers, and only in 2006 losing final to show for it. Yeah, that was amazing. Like 6 managers in 100 years was incredible. We played great when we was out with COVID. COVID, he makes changes too late. He plays the same tactics with his favourites. Yeah, he has been very stubborn on that. We wrote that FA Cup and League Cup final losses. Yes, we did. I wish Moyes give Downs more game time. I do too, especially in the Conference League. I don't think there's any excuse, to be completely honest, to not play Downs beside Rice in the Conference League, especially when you've already seen what he can do. Against FCSB, I thought he was absolutely brilliant. And when I say 100 years, I mean 1900 to 2000. Yeah. Agree, Tommy, playing out of form players will undo him. It very well might. It certainly doesn't help his cause. Redknapp and Lyle with this team would unleash an attacking blitzkrieg against lower half teams. Absolutely. Oh, imagine what John Lyle would do with this team. Even Ron Greenwood, would score so many goals. Let me see. This is My Dice or My Nap. How will the Moyes Dino evolve? Hopefully My Nap. But we shall see. It's not encouraging so far, is it? Moyes has favourites, and this 3 at the back formation will be his downfall. If he persists with it, it could cost him his job. It really could. We do not have the wing backs or the midfield unless he brings in Downs, possibly, to play that formation. And I think sticking with that formation potentially could get him the sack. Moyes Redknapp won nothing with West Ham, and neither did anyone else. I mean, it was difficult to win anything with West Ham at that time. Wasn't much money knocking about for quality players. So Mourinho's name will be in the mix. Yeah. If Moyes bought a Ferrari, he'd keep it in the garage with 2 dust sheets on it. Yeah, probably. Or he'd put a hitch on it and be just dragging a trailer around in the back of it, wouldn't he? Well, I spent big and got us relegated twice. Harry got the boot after the fans turned him. History repeating. A lot of managers will have fans turn them at some point for some reason. Like I said, no patience anymore. Fans turn pretty quick. Late nights, good show. Moyes can only coach and train one way. Hard-working endeavour. Yeah, I think Moyes needs to find a better balance, I have to say. So James Bond, yes, history could be repeating, and we have Moyes is finished. We need someone with fresh ideas. We will see. Maybe Moyes can bring some fresh ideas. Let's hope. Fingers crossed. Anyway, that's my first show. I'm going to have to say goodbye because I too like to sleep, and I'm trying to get Sam Allardyce out of my head. So, yeah. But listen, thank you guys. Anyone who joined, anyone who's watching this back, thank you so much. My first show, I've really enjoyed it. Really appreciate you all for being in the chat. Please give it a like if you can. Just take a second, and I will see you guys next week. Let's hope we can get a win at Goodison. We really need these 3 points, and of course we've got Anderlecht as well. So I'll be back next week with some more talking points and to get involved with the chat. And I really appreciate all your support tonight. I've really enjoyed it, and long may it last. And as always, come on, you Irons. Let's get those 3 points.